a great presentation here. We have some toys that we're not going to show you just yet. Some lighting controllers, a haze machine. No, not yet. It's coming soon. But in this presentation, we're going to talk about Ableton Live and how churches are using the #1 worship leading software to automate lights, cameras, their backing tracks, their music cues, Pro Presenter to show lyrics underneath their messages and everything. So all of this and more will be coming up just after our intro video. So we'll see you guys in just a second. All right, so today we are going to be going over 4 of the main uses of Ableton Live in the house of worship, church worship leading space. And we actually have a great little presentation which you can download at PTZOptics.com/churches. And we're going to go over this in a high level scenario. And then I promise you that I will be adding 4 tutorial videos on each one of these sections.
Careful there. You just made a promise.
I'm going to do it. It's going to actually be available in our free live streaming church course, which there's already over 2,000 members of that course.
Nice.
And
you're going to have to go back and check out the new edition.
You're going to have to check it out because there's tons of great live streaming tips for churches there already. But now we're going to dig into Ableton, which has been blowing my mind with what it can do. So let's look at this presentation in a little more detail. So here we go. So the first thing, let's go back a step real quick. And so we got worship music production. So that is having backing tracks. Mm-hmm. So if you're a church and you have a band, the band may actually want to learn how to play to a click track and have a backing track to give their songs much fuller sound, and having ambient pads and keyboards, drums, all the things that maybe your church would like to add to their musical performance system can be done. There's a great company called Loop Community, which has house of worship music available at a really good budget, so you can add great tracks to your presentation. Now, the next thing that so many churches are using is presentation and worship lyrics. So that is a Pro Presenter. There's also another one called Proclaim, and that allows you to overlay the lyrics to your songs on top of your live streams and videos, or even just locally on the projector monitors so that people can sing along during the music. Now, the next thing, which you saw a little bit in the beginning where we're teasing the idea of church lighting automation and having the lights go with the music, maybe having the lights dim right before a song and then turn on to a specific color. And then finally, the last piece, which we will be going over, you may have seen some of these videos that we've released, is PTZ camera control and video switching, all automated through Ableton Live, which is an affordable audio production software that's the #1 worship leading software. So Tess, tell us a little bit about on this next slide, your tip for why are so many churches live streaming?
Yeah, we've gotten this question before from people, maybe you, looking into using live streaming for your worship services. Should we do it? Is this something that should be private? Should we open up our doors to the world? Absolutely. I mean, the whole idea in most cases of religion is welcoming others around you, and live streaming is a great way to do that. Besides the fact that everything that houses of worship are doing all week is normally for one day, few hours a day of a service. So that's working all hands on deck all week, emails, phone calls, writing, preparations, outreach to the community, all for one day. Why not maximize your capability and your reach with live streaming any way possible? So basically, this is a great way to grow your community, bring people in that otherwise wouldn't be able to come to your church services, and just to attract some new faces. Another tip that we got from one of the best pros in the industry, Tom Sinclair of Eastern Shore Broadcasting, he brought up a really good point. On Sunday services or Wednesday services, whenever your house of worship services are, actually ask your members of your community to check in via Facebook. If you're live streaming your event, if they check in on Facebook during your service, then their family members and friends on social media will be able to get a notification of where they are. They're in your house of worship, and then they will be able to tune into your live stream right then and there when it is in fact live. Because a lot of times houses of worship, they're looking for people who are, one, local, and that's relevant to geolocation, and two, people that maybe have some of the like-minded interests of the members of their community already, which are families, members, and friends who are in the area and maybe have some of the same beliefs as them. So that's a great tip from Tom Sinclair regarding check-ins on social media and live streaming house of worship services.
Yeah, I just love that because you check in, all your friends are notified, your friends go and see the Facebook page of the church, and then they have this window into the church service where they can see the live stream and see the church service that's going on. So it's a great way to get people who may be window shopping or just learning about your church to really see what you're all about on this day that you've done so much preparation for and really putting on an amazing service to share with the world. So let's do a little overview here of what Ableton can do. So we talked about backing tracks. Check out Loop Community, check out multitracks.com. We talked about a little bit about church lighting. We talked about presentation lyrics. We talked about video switching. How is this one software handling all of this? Well, it happens to be controlled mainly by sending MIDI messages out of Ableton to these different pieces of software. And there's two ways to send MIDI messages. You can send an internal loop, meaning Ableton's running on your computer and you're also running ProPresenter on that computer, and you are looping MIDI messages from one application to the next. Or you can send what's called RTP MIDI over the network to another computer. And we actually have a case study I want to plug. Doug Laws from the Keys Vineyard Community Church, who we have a great video on our YouTube and Facebook page about his setup. He really helped us learn about this. And he actually uses almost 3 or 4 different computers and sends MIDI notes to each one. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. A lot of churches have maybe one computer for streaming, one computer for Ableton, and maybe even another computer for ProPresenter. So just keep that in mind. These MIDI messages are being sent either to 1 or 2 applications on the same computer or different computers connected over a local area network. And that means they're all connected via Ethernet to a network switch. So this is what Ableton Live looks like. And we're going to dig into this in more detail in just a moment. So here is the Keys Vineyard Church. I just want to show here. So right here is where the lyrics are being displayed. And there's actually nobody on stage because Doug was being nice enough to just shoot some behind the stage footage. But this is a live video camera feed from a PTZOptics camera. So there is the PTZOptics camera shown there. And then ProPresenter is overlaying on top of the video feed, the lyrics, and the only way to really achieve this is to have everything synchronized. You can't just have a band playing at their own tempo and expect for this to work. Everyone has to be singing the lyrics at the same time in order for the lyrics to be displayed at the right time on top of the camera. So that's why this whole kind of Ableton thing comes into play, because we're synchronizing the lights, the cameras, the lyrics, all of these things so that they all work in sync with Ableton Live, and it's really popular.
I like this idea because there's so many original like religious music songs out there now, and so many houses of worship have their own bands, so now the community can sing along with them.
Yeah. Oh, it's great for community engagement. I wish that my church had this when I was growing up, because just to be able to see the lyrics and just the lights. Now they have fog machines. And
saves paper too. Seriously, because in the program you don't have to put song lyrics.
I wonder, yeah, you're right, because the programs are expensive to print and everything. Very interesting thought there too. So our next presentation, or next slide, goes into, Tess, you're going to advance the slides for us.
I was reading the chat.
Oh, sorry. If there's anything interesting in the chat, let us know.
Okay.
So here is ProPresenter, and the first thing we're going to talk about is synchronizing ProPresenter with Ableton Live. Now, again, I realize that we are going fairly quickly over these slides. We were trying to do this presentation in 20 minutes to give you just a general overview of what you can do. But like I said, we will go into more detail of this to really show you how it's done and hopefully be able to support you through this. But this is a picture of Ableton. You can see the lyrics there. Or sorry, this is ProPresenter. And the next slide will show you how to connect Ableton. It's actually the next one after this, sorry. And it's actually the next one after this. Those are just some cool pictures from other stuff. Wait a second.
Oh, there's an important one. This one's important.
Okay, this one is important. So, sorry, the flow of this is probably should have gone over a little better. But these are the iPad charts that our customer Doug Laws is using in the Keys Vineyard Church, and those iPad charts allow on the iPads allow everyone in the music in the band to kind of follow along.
Can they be updated on the fly?
No, those are showing the whole song, so they just kind of go from song to song. Those aren't automated. It's just kind of it's not part of Ableton. It's not part of Ableton, but it does. So Tess is going to change her battery, and I'm going to update the slide to. I'm going to go to the ProPresenter section because somehow, yeah.
So this is from Jay from Facebook chat.
Yes.
Can you use Ableton Live over NDI?
Can you use Ableton Live over NDI? Ableton Live doesn't do anything with video except Switch video, which we are going to talk about today, not do a full demonstration on. So no, it doesn't really tie into NDI as much as it doesn't really need to. This is synchronizing the cameras, which could be NDI cameras, with the music, the lights, and the lyrics. So it doesn't really have any in-depth tie-in with NDI. So let's take a look at what you need to get started with ProPresenter. So first of all, you need Ableton Standard or Ableton Suite. You need ProPresenter, and ProPresenter actually sells a $100 add-on module in order to support MIDI, and it comes with a project file, so you want to get that project file as well. We talked a little bit about sending MIDI from application to application. Mac actually has a free built-in MIDI loop and MIDI network for all Mac computers. Now with PC, you do need to download either loop MIDI or RTP MIDI, depending. We'll go to the next slide here.
Kevin just shared a really interesting comment.
Switching from paper to presented lyrics has saved his church over $1,000 a month in printing costs.
Who would have thought?
Wow, you were right, Tess.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that's awesome. Setting up ProPresenter MIDI cues is fairly straightforward. In ProPresenter, you choose Preferences. You go to the Communications tab, as you can see right here. There's the Communications tab. And what we do is we select MIDI setup. We enter 0 for the value, and we do autofill. And what that is going to do is automatically fill the lyrics in there for us. And the MIDI cues. Next slide. And then back at the communications menu, we just add a device, and we select MIDI, and we select our AIC driver or our network. And then once we click that, we hit save. And again, I know I'm kind of going a little fast here. So I'm just really trying to give you an overview of how this stuff is set up. And I promise you we'll have more detailed information and go at a slower pace.
And remember, this whole presentation is downloadable.
Yes. Now, if you're connecting to another computer, if you have 2 Macs, you repeat the process of the last 2 slides. If you're on a PC, you use RTP MIDI, and you simply add the session with the plus button on your PC to show the MIDI devices. And then on your second PC, you use RTP MIDI to connect to your first PC or Mac in the MIDI devices menu. Now, in troubleshooting, one of the things you might want to look at here is in Ableton's preferences, whether you're using a Mac or a PC, there's a MIDI section to show all of your MIDI in and out routing. Every track can have a MIDI in and out. So really that MIDI out is what we're out to other programs to automate them. And now what I want to do is go all the way. I apologize. I want to go all the way back to the start. We messed up the setup of this, and I want to talk about how we're routing our audio. So first of all, there's 3 types of audio that really we're talking about here. One is the front of house for the church. So all the microphones and speakers, everything for the people in the room. Then we have our in-ear monitors, which are a little different. Those are for the musicians, right? So they can hear the cues and the click track. And then finally, potentially a separate mix or the same mix for our live stream, which is connecting to Wirecast, to vMix, or to OBS.
And it's all connected.
So let's look at those three in more detail because we'll show you how they set up.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to go totally full screen with this one or not, but here's Ableton, that's on a Mac, and we're using a 3.5 to 1/4 inch split cable. So those split. And what that does is it allows you to split into 2 different channels going into your audio mixer. We're showing a Behringer 32 right now, but we've got our click track in one channel, and then we've got our audio that's all the backing tracks and everything on a second channel. And the reason why we do that is we don't want the click track and the cues to go to the front of house. We don't want people hearing
The
that.
audience.
Yeah, the audience doesn't need that. Just
Understood.
the musicians need that.
I got it.
So we're breaking that out using these Pro DIs.
Are they going to hear one in one ear and the other in the other ear?
Yes, that is what they will be able to do, or a mix of both.
Okay.
So the musicians get both, but we need to split it out because we don't want the live stream audio or the front of house to include click and cues.
Is that what the tracks one is? The front of house?
Mhm. The tracks one's just the backing tracks. So when we're managing this, if we go to the next slide here, you're managing the slide.
That's me.
Now we have these in-ear audio monitoring systems, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos on this. The Behringer X32 seems to be a great solution. Also, Midas 32R is a great solution for this. And what they do is these are really 32-channel audio mixers, about $2,000. A lot of churches have these. And then we use 1/4 inch cables to connect to a headphone amplifier. And these headphone amplifiers connect to the network using an Ethernet cable, or actually just the Behringer can connect directly to a network. And that gives you Wi-Fi access for everyone to use the Behringer X32, or depending on your audio switcher, usually make sure your audio switcher has a smartphone app. And the smartphone app actually allows each individual musician to actually create their own mix.
Mm.
So depending on the musician,
Custom.
they might say, all right, I want to hear the click at a certain level. I want to hear the cues at a certain level. And then I want to hear the backing tracks at a certain level.
Maybe depending on the instrument they're playing, or
Yeah,
if
like
they're the
drums
singer.
might need it louder.
Okay.
But from what I've heard is that when bands and musicians come together and use an automated system like this, everyone sounds better. Everything is done in time, and this is a really popular way for churches to create great sounding bands and music.
Ready for this one?
Yep. So the next one, this is
the
the
easy part?
simplest part, and this is the part I love to tell churches. This is that if your audio system is set up, the hard part is done. Just connect that mixer via USB. It already exists, and you can plug that in directly to your live streaming software. The other option is to take a XLR audio output with one of your buses and plug it into like a $20 USB XLR to USB adapter. There's one from Behringer. I think it's like $20 or $40. So the audio is all handled very easily. You can bring that into your live streaming software, and now we have the audio portion of Ableton kind of just work. We worked through it. We're moving quickly. We're just giving you a good idea.
Tip coming in from Kevin. FYI, for that click track implementation, if you use a digital mixer with the X32, you can send the click tracks over USB interface, so you don't have to use the DI boxes, and it will give you a much cleaner sound.
Really? I'm going to have to think about how that would work. That's very interesting. Thank you, Kevin.
Chris is saying, what kind of headphones? Do you just use iPhone headphones?
I believe so, yes. I think that just the regular iPhone headphones, usually if you want to upgrade a little bit, the ones that like kind of push into the ear and suction give you a little bit cleaner sound.
Like the musician
yeah, not like full
earpiece
headphone
things?
ones, but the earpiece ones, yeah.
Okay.
I've even seen ones that like you like spray stuff in and then they seal to your ear, but that's craziness. So we talked about this. We're going to skip like 10 slides here, Tess.
Where are we going,
Talked
homie?
about all that.
This one? We did that. Oh, DMX lighting.
Lighting. Okay.
Paul's very excited about
This is, now here's the deal. We got everything we need to create an amazing video and presentation on this, but we don't have time to go over all of this
In
our
a 15
presentation.
square foot space.
Now, let me start by showing you a couple things up close and personal. Because as you guys know on this channel, we like to really dig into the products. And we're not just like going over PowerPoint presentations. We really want to like show you guys what things are. And so expect really more detailed information on this. I can't wait to play with these things, to be honest with you. But this right here is a DMX cable. You can see it has 3 pins. It's not focusing on it. It's focusing on me.
You gotta move.
Focusing on the star.
Yeah, it's focusing on tests, which it probably should. But here we have DMX cables. They're 3 pins. Now, there's a couple different ways to do DMX. You can go over Ethernet with DMX, and that is the way that you can use like iOS and Android apps because they work over the network. But almost all of these products are DMX and they daisy chain. So let's look at our wiring diagrams here, and we'll look at how DMX is generally set up. So here we have just I call it the old school analog setup where the DMX cabling is connected to the controller. That is actually the controller that we have right here. Very excited for this all to be automated with scenes and different things. And they just daisy chain from one to the next. Thank you.
Passing the torch.
Now, you can see the daisy chaining just goes boop, 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 boop. And each device may have 10, 20 channels of DMX because each channel on these faders might be green, red, blue, left, right, X, Y. So the channels, there's 512 channels per DMX universe. Now, on our next slide, if we want to add software control to, you skipped one, I think. There. If we wanted to add software control to our DMX, we would add 2 options here, DMX to USB or DMX to what's called ArcNet, which is essentially the IP version. And then now you've got software control, which is always better than the hardware controllers. Then you've got a Wi-Fi connection, and you can send MIDI commands from Ableton directly to your software. And that's what a lot of churches are doing. So here you can see the Ableton Live is sending MIDI commands to the software. Next. We're going to try to go, we're behind schedule, so go as fast as we can here. Usually you can have like scenes, so you can have like complicated lighting scenes that are this, and this. Send one MIDI note from Ableton to your lighting command, and then it changes everything. And then another MIDI note, and a bunch of different lights change at a time. So that's how usually it will work. Very quickly here, the case study. Doug from Keys Vineyard has 5 PTZOptics cameras. They're connected to Ableton Live over the network. OBS and Blackmagic is controlled over that. He's using Bohm MIDI controller, which actually maps MIDI notes to physical mouse clicks on a keyboard. He's got Pro Presenter, he's got Chauvet DJ lights, and of course he has his iPad Touch OSC system, which actually allows him to trigger Ableton system. So that's actually an input to Ableton over Wi-Fi. Sorry we're going so fast again, but we're running out of time here. How many slides do we have left? I think there's a whole other section. Okay, really, really quickly here. Super quick.
This works.
This is our PC and available for Mac MIDI controller for PTZOptics cameras. So you can receive MIDI notes. You can have up to 10 cameras over IP.
So you actually have camera control via Ableton as well.
Yeah. And so that's the gist of it. There's a better tutorial. We did a whole show on this earlier, so I'm not going to go into it in more detail. That is our show. I realize it was super fast. If we go a little further, I think the last slide or two has a couple takeaways. This also works with Pro Tools and other softwares as well, not just Ableton. Keep going. Keep going. You call the presets on our IP controller. A little bit about how the MIDI works on Mac and PC. You can get all of this on the download. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. This is why we have this available for download, because there's so much. Keep going. 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 And keep going. Keep going. All right. If you're looking for more information, we have an entire course on this. So the course is available at PTZOptics.com/churches. I think there's one more maybe.
This is what you were waiting to get to?
I'm sorry. Free training course. Check it out. There's over 2,700 people
Are you going to
taking
answer
it.
any questions?
And I'm going to answer questions now. And
I'll
then,
put the link to PTZOptics.com/churches.
Yes. And I'd love to answer questions. We just try to keep these pretty quick and brief so that they're not too people scared to look at a 2-hour-long webinar. But we will be doing more detailed videos on all of this. Do you know if there's any latency issues using a click track with Ableton? Since Ableton has a built-in metronome, so the metronome itself is built into Ableton. So the cool thing about that is that not only is the click synchronized with the backing tracks, it also synchronizes with when it sends those MIDI commands because the MIDI notes are in the timeline. So it blew my mind actually the first time I saw it that the cameras are actually, the PTZ notes are being called in line by when the metronome hits. So if you place the notes at the beginning of a track, it will actually, or at the beginning of a section of a song, the cameras will actually move in sync with the camera. So there could be minimal latency over your network, depending if you're using Wi-Fi to somebody's iPhone. I haven't actually tested that, so I apologize. But I've saw so many churches online, people talking about this is the way they set it up. So I'm assuming it works really well. Hi, Jay. Thank you for watching. All right, so that's can we cover it? Okay, yeah. So that's our show. We're gonna go switch to Twitch and answer questions there, chat with you guys, and we'll see you guys in just a moment.
Twitch.tv/sgeeks. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope this is helpful.
Bye.
That means extra.